Good afternoon. I'm John Lipsky. I'm the Vice Chair of the Bretton Woods Committee. And on behalf of my colleagues, members, and the board, everyone connected with the Bretton Woods Committee, we want to welcome you to this Spring Summit 2025. Now, my friend Austin Goolsbee, who's currently the president of the Chicago Federal Reserve Bank, has taken recently to saying it's hard to see forward because there's a lot of dust in the air. It seemed to me as of April 2nd, it's more like a sandstorm. So let's have a discussion with the managing director who has taken time out of this busy day and this busy week to share with us. So
thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. And of course, it is great to be with the Bretton Woods Committee and the friends of the Bretton Woods Committee. It is indeed time that again puts to the test the resilience of the world economy. But hey, we've been there. We know we can get through it. We published our World Economic Outlook today. For those who may have not seen it, just to give you a summary of it, we recognize that the uncertainty that has been created as a result of the sandstorm leads to revising downwards our growth projections for the world as a whole from 3.3 now to 2.8%. Please notice, this is not a prediction of recession. And for the majority of our members, with very few exceptions, some downgrades are in place. Advanced economies also 0.5 percentage point downgrade. Emerging markets 0.5 percentage point downgrade. When we look into other important macro aspects of the global outlook, inflation continues to trend downwards with a slightly slower pace. Financial conditions have become somewhat tighter, but markets are functioning, and there is no disorderly anything that we should get truly very deeply, seriously concerned about. The uncertainty, as we all know, not good for growth, because investors are unsure whether to invest. Consumers are unsure whether they should go forward with their purchases. And that is what primarily causes the projected slowdown. What we are also mindful of is that longer term, should a new world of trade comes to be in permanency, we are likely to see slower productivity growth. Why? Because allocation of resources with the constraint of doing more at home and less trading with others possibly would be less efficient than otherwise. And this is particularly true for smaller economies. What do we do in this environment? What we are very strongly recommending from the fund is first, bring uncertainty down. Find a resolution, come to an agreement of parameters that would then be giving that sense of we know where we are headed. We are here, these are our spring meetings, and this is a very good place, talk with each other, create that sense of we can move to a place where this very heavy cloud of uncertainty, you talk about sand dust, it may be kind of sandy on our heads, that we lift it up. Most importantly, however, we remind our members that whenever you are in a tougher place, a challenge is an opportunity, and the impossible becomes possible. Look at Germany. For many, many years, Germany has been debating whether they should eliminate the debt brake. Where is the debt brake now? Gone. And that is very good for Germany, good for Europe, creates more space, and we hope that that approach to addressing obstacles that for good reasons have been there at this time may help countries to reduce imbalances. China, reduce your imbalance in terms of not consuming domestically enough, create more opportunities for domestic consumption, more incentives for it, take the state to be more appropriately placed in the economy, reduce debt imbalance. In the European Union, are there Europeans in the audience?
Yes, I think there. Yes.
Okay.
Many.
Europe can complete the banking union. Europe can move to have a capital markets union. And most importantly, eliminate the barriers among countries in the European Union so they trade among themselves more easily. And here in the United States, budget deficit. Bring it down, that would help the US, and of course, all of this would help the world economy. To all countries that are here, I have one very simple message. Get your own house in order. Mm-hmm. There are reforms on the fiscal side. There are actions related to financial stability, to your financial sector, actions that taken together can give you a better standing in a world of more frequent shocks. And finally, I believe we would see more regional cooperation in areas of the world where this makes total sense, whether we talk about ASEAN, or we talk about the Gulf Cooperation Council, or we talk about the communities in Africa that could do better. Or we talk about Central Asia. There is so obviously benefit of stepping up trade among neighbors, creating better conditions for capital flows across borders, and in that sense, very simple. Take challenge, make opportunity. And I hope that we would have some discussions around that at the spring meetings.
So, for sure, in this difficult and uncertain environment, the fund has an important role of analysis, of helping to guide the understanding of the problems and the challenges. Beyond that, what is the appropriate role for the fund in a moment like this?
Well, the fund, as many of you know, is created for conditions like this, when there are complexities, where there are difficulties. And what we contribute is threefold. First, we provide analysis that is objective, based on data from individual countries. We aggregate it and we offer it to the membership so they can see where the world is headed from one and the same place. Second, we translate this analysis into specific policy recommendations for individual countries. And what I can tell you, my colleagues and I are concentrated on is to move more of the capacity, the skills, the abilities of the fund to serve individual countries, because we are no more in a place where, as we were after COVID, everybody faced the same problem, everybody had to do the same thing. Monetary policy accommodation, fiscal policy accommodation, protect the most vulnerable. Different countries face different combination of challenges. For example, in some countries, there could be more the impact of a supply shock. And there is a risk that inflation may go up. In other places, there could be demand shock. The economy may be slowing even more as a result. So, and different countries are telling us, please, IMF, we love you dearly, but don't come with cookie cutter advice to us. And for this reason, John, you would see the fund very focused on what is our biggest contribution to our members: macroeconomic, financial stability, and how countries, what specifically countries can do to enhance it. 3, we are a financial institution. Actually, I look at the last years, almost 100 countries benefited from support from the fund. Right now, we have 48 programs. I spent the last week with our teams scanning the world to see where we are likely to have needs for the fund to step up financially. Either new programs or augmentation of existing programs. And what I can say is that we feel very strongly that we are not going to be helping our members if we are not also strongly defining conditionalities, not in a way of we are imposing on you, but in a way of, if you want to do better, let's see what are the actions you need to take on it. You might have heard me talking about Argentina. In Argentina, we have our largest program. So I look at Jeffrey, he has been there in a previous round. And this time is different. Why is it different? Because Argentina owns the program and is willing to take tough action to change the direction of the country. And that is the kind of support we want to give our members. And of course, since you are here, we also want to bring the membership together to get a good discussion around what are the challenges, what can be done about them.
Now, let me give an advertisement to a publication that I think is underestimated, and that is the Managing Director's Global Policy Agenda, which is an innovation of a few years ago that provides an actual specific description of what the fund, how the fund intends to fulfill its role. What is there particularly notable in the latest edition? And I hope that encourages everybody to take a look. Please do.
What is in this edition in comparison to what you have seen, if you looked at it in previous spring and annual meetings, is that this time we thought we need to look into a little bit further into the future. Why? Because we need to decide how to deploy some really important medium-term impacting reviews at the fund. So what you would see is Of course, a lot of attention to the current challenge. In that sense, a simple call: resolve trade tensions. Especially the large economies find a pathway so we can reduce uncertainty, improve conditions for growth. But then we look into what can the fund do to support macroeconomic and financial stability. And we look into what can the fund do in a multipolar world to support strong global financial safety net. On macroeconomic financial stability, there are two reviews that would have significance for how we deploy the fund. First, review of surveillance. How do we define efficient, effective, impactful surveillance that would help our countries and help the global community? And the second one is review of conditionality. What have we learned from conditionality? What does it mean for our programs? How we can go about it? We also would be looking very carefully into the balance of instruments, our lending instruments. What we all recognize is that we are in a more shock-prone world, so building resilience to shocks really matters. But what does it mean for lending? We have, as you probably know, we have the so-called precautionary lending instruments. How do we use them? What do we, that goes also in the review of conditionality, how do we make them effective, given that this is specifically for countries that are strong, that have strong fundamentals? And then we need to look into the way we design shorter and longer term programs. How do we decide whether it is a 9 months or a 4-year program? And a very important question, I'm sure you have been, if you watch the fund, you know that we are wrestling with it. How do we decide about countries that go on and on and on and on, program after program after program after program? Right now, we have 3 of these countries: Pakistan, Egypt, Argentina. There are some others, but these are particularly noticeable. And what we have agreed with the countries is, look, do it right. Let's imagine a future in which you don't have any more programs with the IMF. What would it take to get there? I started my meetings this year with a meeting with the delegation from Pakistan. And I can tell you the program in Pakistan, disciplined, things are improving, you can see it. The only issue there is stay the course, so we don't meander back into. It was amazing. So we are sitting with the minister. He's great, the finance minister of Pakistan. We are sitting there, and I turn to him, and of course I say, stay the course. So he smiles, he shows me his notes, what he's supposed to tell me, and of course there with big letters, stay the course. That is how we want to get. We want to get ahead of this problem of repeat programs. We also have to recognize that there are cases when actually it would take a long time. And we should not pretend that we have a 4-year program, and it's done. But be honest about it. Define engagement that is a longer-term engagement up front. You will see in the GPA, I mentioned Global Financial Safety Net. We would be looking more thoroughly into the role of the fund, how we cooperate with other elements of the Global Financial Safety Net, the regional financial arrangements, regional institutions, as well as major central banks, especially major central banks that provide swap lines, often in the context of fund programs. Finally, the GPA is to get a message to everybody. The fund walks its own talk. We give advice to countries, focus, be fiscally responsible. We do the same. Maybe not many of you know, but the fund's budget today is, in real terms, what it was 20 years ago. And that gives me a foot to stand on when I talk to my delegation, say, be fiscally responsible, don't spend money you don't have. Here it is. We stick to it.
Very good. But now this sounds like, in addition to dealing with the very short-term challenges and this huge uncertainty, the fund is going to be doing a quite thorough review of how it goes about working. Is this supported by the executive board, I'm sure? Will this be discussed at the IMFC in this meeting?
Yes. I should also add that one issue that came time and again in our engagement with the membership was you, the IMF, you give us good advice on macroeconomic and financial stability, but stability has to be for something. It has to be to support growth. Yes. So can you please be also more proactive in helping us lift our growth potential? So you would see in the GPA more attention to the role of structural reforms that are pro-growth and pro-putting the private sector in the driver's seat of economies. We have already discussed it with our board of directors. I can tell you that the reaction, the engagement was very good, and the reaction is very positive. I will present it during the IMFC meeting with the expectation that we would hear back from members. I'm not just looking for endorsement, I'm looking for how can we do really well for you.
You want engagement.
I want engagement, yes.
As well as endorsement. This is great that
I also want endorsement, don't get me wrong.
But this is great. So dealing with the short term while not losing a focus on how to make the institution work better in the long term. Now, in the short term, one of the problems is, or it looks like it's, if anything, going to get worse, is debt, and especially debt of developing emerging economies. You've been doing a lot of work with this. We've had the common framework has not worked as well as many had hoped. You and President Banga have taken to form the roundtable on debt restructuring. And is that making some progress? Can we look forward to some improvements in how the debt restructuring mechanisms will work?
Let me start by saying that the debt landscape is very different today than it was 15, 20,
oh, yes.
30 years ago. It is a kind of multipolar world, and within it, private sector plays a role, public sector plays a role, traditional, non-traditional lenders. I just spent an hour and a half with the Africa Caucus, and you wouldn't be surprised, for them this is a central issue. We talk a lot about it. And what we recognize is that today, dealing with debt is like herding cats. And I was talking to the minister from Ghana. They have had a real cat herding exercise in that restructuring. I asked him, scratches, do you have some? He says, oh, yes, I do. It is important to not be naive about the complexity that most cases, not all cases, but most cases of high debt vulnerability present. And this is why we created the Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable, because we realized that the common framework between the new and the traditional and new creditors and individual countries is not making the most important step of defining what is a good debt restructuring process, how we can go about it, and then bringing common view from public sector, from private sector, public, traditional, new, private sector institutions, and the debtor countries themselves. So we sit around the table, we identify what are the challenges, and then we work through those to come up with a solution, a path to solution. Tomorrow we are going to have the Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable. It is at ministerial level or leadership from the private sector. And I'm very pleased to preview, maybe I shouldn't preview, so bad luck, it goes away. But what we are aiming is to have a guidebook on how to do it, how to define timeline, how to define steps, how to go through these steps. And this kind of playbook for debt restructuring is now endorsed by everybody, meaning that we expect that the next country we go to do debt restructuring, we use the playbook. It may sound like not a big deal. It's actually a big deal. It's a big deal. I also heard from the Africa caucus something that I'm going to discuss in details with my colleagues. That, yes, that's great, roundtable, playbook, but we, the countries, we expect you, the IMF, you to make sure that restructurings happen, that debt management is done properly. We look up to you. And I think we have to recognize that that means for us to be more active, to be more outspoken, so countries can say, you're doing what we expect you to do. There is a lot of unfinished work on debt transparency. And I think in this world in which we just entered a new period of turbulence, everybody is in a tougher place because we went from shock to shock to shock. But low-income countries, vulnerable middle-income countries, they have no policy space to speak of. Their debt levels are now eating precious resources in a way that is truly devastating. So we have to take this task seriously. We have had successes. I actually was looking at the numbers. Median emerging market economy, external debt service to revenue is now twice as high as it was a decade ago. From 7% in 2014, it went up to 14%. I mean, just imagine what it is. You have your revenues squeezed by, shrinking by 14% in this moment in time. So yes, we would do this, but we also are, again, I go back to our focus. We also would do more in technical assistance, in policy advice for debt management. And I also heard this from countries. They say, sometimes we feel when we come to these debt discussions, we feel like babes in the wood. Here are the wolves, and we need to somehow handle them. Help us in capacity. Also, be there for us. If you need your analysis, please be there to help us.
Yes. And as you know, the Bretton Woods Committee has viewed this as an extremely important issue.
I know, yes. And thank you for what you have presented to us.
Well, and thank you for taking it forward. And let's hope you haven't jinxed the outcome of the roundtable and you have some real success to talk about.
So my plea to the audience and a little prayer. Please play book, come true tomorrow.
One last topic. We're in the midst of some pretty rapid change in terms of the role of the digital everything, but the digital finance. And this is taking various forms. As you know, in some of the member countries, it seems there's real intent to produce central bank digital currencies. Other places, like in the United States, more interest in stable coins. But in essence, it looks like the financial system may be changing in many important ways. What is the fund's view and what is the fund's engagement in helping to not just understand, but to design the architecture for a digital world?
It is already changing, and it is changing in a fairly diverse way across the globe. As you said, there are countries that are pursuing central bank digital currencies. There are countries that are absolutely not going to go for CBDCs. There are countries that are going for stable coins, and there are countries that absolutely ban stable coins. So how do countries make these choices? They have actually turned to us. This is the area where we're getting fastest growth of demand for technical assistance. And what we do is we identify obviously we don't know technology. We take for given this is the technology that is in place. But then what we look into is when this technology is applied, what are the opportunities for countries in cutting down costs of transactions, in facilitating economic activities? What are the risks? And the risks are threefold. One, risk to financial stability. If you get willy-nilly into a place not quite knowing how that may blossom, you may have trouble. Two, we have recognized that quite a number of countries, including large economies like India, are very concerned about their monetary policy sovereignty. They are concerned that, say, dollar stablecoin can invade their policy space and then push the rupiah into a tough place. And three, how do we connect different choices? How can we ensure interoperability in this more diverse world? We see our role in being in responding to demand from members, but also engaging with others, with standard setters, engaging with BIS that has advanced a lot on innovation, with the Financial Stability Board, so we can collectively come up with a good pathway. Technology is very valuable. I think digital money is here. Even if we want to close this, genie is out. Mm-hmm. And the question is how to make a rational, how to minimize risks, how to enhance opportunities, and most importantly, how to provide knowledge to countries about what is going on and how they find their place in it.
So you're happy with the level of fund engagement in developing this area?
I'm happy. You ask my team that works on digital money, they would say, oh, no, we should be doing more. No, I am actually quite happy. I think that we have positioned the fund. We actually spent time to say, Jeffrey was with us at that time, to say, what is the role of the fund in digital money? And then define comparative advantage, what other people are doing, and not go there, but do what we can do to contribute. So yes.
Well, thank you. I think we've heard a very clear message. The fund is very focused on dealing with what's in front of us with the sandstorm, but is also thinking creatively and importantly on the future beyond the sandstorm. Managing Director, thank you so much for the time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you.